He didn't know her name and didn't expect the gentle voice on the other end of the line to change anything. But every few nights she'd call, leaving voicemails meant for a man who no longer picked up. Until one night he answered, and from that wrong number, something unexpected began, something quiet, tender, and unforgettable. This is the story of a call that was never meant to be, and why he stayed on the line anyway. The first time Evan heard her voice, he thought it was a mistake. He was in the middle of sorting groceries in his tiny studio kitchen, balancing a carton of eggs and a bag of lentils with his phone wedged between his shoulder and ear on speaker because his hands were full, and the podcast he'd been listening to had just cut out. Then it started playing. "Hi, love. I know I said I wouldn't call again, but it's cold today, and I remembered how you used to warm up my hands by holding them between yours." Evan froze. He blinked at the phone screen, confused. The call wasn't live. It was a voicemail from an unknown number. "The house is quiet. I made your soup while I tried. It didn't taste right. I forgot the bay leaf. I always forget the damn bay leaf." He slowly placed the eggs on the counter, listening. Her voice was calm, gentle, older than his, maybe late 30s or early 40s. There was a melody in it, soft, tired, but rich. "I wore your sweater today. It still smells like you. I didn't wash it. I don't think I ever will." Then came silence. No goodbye, no name, just the click of the recording ending, like she'd run out of breath or nerve. Evan stared at his phone. Weird. He figured she must have dialed the wrong number, probably meant it for someone else. Maybe a voicemail she left for a contact she hadn't deleted yet. Maybe a pocket dial. Still, instead of deleting it, he hit save. 3 days passed. He didn't think about it again until another voicemail arrived. This time he was brushing his teeth, and the buzz of the alert made him pause. He clicked play, same voice, same tone. "You always said I talk too much. Remember? You like the quiet. I hated it. Funny how now I'd give anything to fill the silence. So here I am, still talking. You're probably rolling your eyes." Evan sat down on the edge of the bathtub, toothbrush and hand foam gathering at the corners of his mouth. "I walked by the river today. There were geese. You'd have hated them, mean bastards. One hissed at me, and I thought of you yelling, 'Claire, don't feed the damn things, they're prehistoric.'" Claire. Her name was Claire. This time she laughed at the memory. It was soft, almost reluctant. Then the voicemail ended with a quiet breath. Evan didn't delete that one either. Over the next 2 weeks, the messages came like clockwork every 3 or 4 days. Evan tried not to look forward to them, but the truth was he did. There was something strangely comforting about her voice. She never cried, never broke down. She just remembered and shared. Sometimes she spoke in fragments, sometimes in full conversations meant for someone who was no longer there. He wasn't sure what made him keep listening, loneliness maybe, or curiosity, or the odd truth that Claire, whoever she was, seemed more real in those 2-minute voicemails than anyone he'd talked to in weeks. One evening, after a particularly long workday spent photoshopping ads for a brand of luxury dog beds, Evan sat on the couch microwaving leftover curry and played the latest message. "The bookstore on Ninth closed. Can you believe that? Remember how we used to go in and pretend we were sophisticated enough to read Russian novels?" He smiled, not at the words, but the way she said them. "There was a boy there today, sitting cross-legged on the floor reading a comic. He looked so young. I wondered what kind of love he'll find. Will it wreck him, or will it save him?" Her voice dipped lower, quieter. "I hope it saves him." The curry beeped. Evan didn't move. He realized then that Claire was probably unaware her messages were reaching someone at all. She was likely calling her husband's old number, an old number that, by some twist of digital fate, had been reassigned to Evan when he changed phone providers 2 months ago, and she had no idea anyone was listening. One night, a voicemail came in later than usual. Evan had been asleep and the buzz woke him. He opened it, thumb hovering over delete, but curiosity won. "I think I dreamed of you last night," Claire whispered. "You were sitting at the edge of the bed just watching, like you were checking in. I wanted to reach out, but I couldn't move." She exhaled sharply. "It's been 2 years. I should be over this. They say time helps, but they don't tell you it just gets quieter, not easier." Silence. Evan swallowed. Then, like a pulse through the dark, he heard her say, "God, I miss you." The message ended. This time he couldn't sleep. The next morning, Evan stood in his kitchen, phone in hand, staring at her number. He shouldn't. He really shouldn't. But he tapped a call. It rang once, twice, then she answered. Hello? Her voice was sharp or wary. Evan froze. He hadn't planned this far. Hi, he said. Sorry, this is probably weird. I think you've been calling me. A pause. What? I think you meant to reach someone else, he said. You've been leaving voicemails to someone, your husband, I think. Silence, then a soft intake of breath. Oh, she said quietly. I'm so sorry, I didn't realize. No, it's okay, he rushed. Really, I didn't want to freak you out. He rubbed the back of his neck. I wanted to let you know I've been getting them your messages. Another silence, but this one felt heavier. You listened to them, Ishmael, she asked. I did, Evan admitted. I didn't mean to at first, but they were beautiful, honest. He wasn't sure why he said that. Maybe it was the truth. Maybe it was what she needed to hear. Claire didn't respond right away. When she did, her voice had softened. I didn't think the number would ever get reassigned. It was his for years. I used to call it just to hear the line ring. Evan nodded even though she couldn't see him. I understand. I'm sorry if I bothered you, she said. I'll stop. Something in his chest pulled. You don't have to, he said. A beat. What? You don't have to stop, he said gently, this upon you. You weren't bothering me. I liked hearing from you. Claire didn't speak then. That's the strangest thing anyone's ever said to me. Evan chuckled. Yeah, I get that a lot. A breath of laughter from her side, small reel. I don't even know your name, she said. It's Evan. Evan, she repeated like tasting it. And you just listened. I did. She was quiet a moment, then why? Evan leaned against the counterphone, pressed close. Because he said you sounded like someone I was supposed to hear. The next time they spoke, it was Claire who called. Evan had just gotten back from a jog, the rare kind where he actually broke a sweat. His earbuds were still in when the call came through, unknown caller, flashing on the screen. He paused, thumb hovering. Then he answered. Hello. A small silence then. Is this Evan? He smiled. It is. She exhaled, relieved or uncertain. He couldn't tell. It's Claire. He knew. He would have known that voice anywhere. I wasn't sure I'd call again, she said. And yet here you are. A hint of a laugh. And here you are picking up a stranger's call like it's perfectly normal. Normal's overrated. Claire paused. That's true. There was something in her voice today, more solid, less cautious, like the first layer of frost had melted just a little. Where are you calling from, Evan asked. Home, just the kitchen. She hesitated. I was making coffee. I poured too much into one mug, like I used to when we shared. Evan waited. And then I realized it was just me, she said quietly. Still just me. There wasn't much to say to that, but Evan didn't hang up. He didn't rush to comfort her or pretend to understand. He just listened, and somehow that was enough. They started talking more often. Not every day, Claire wasn't that type of person, but every few days around late morning or sometimes after sunset, she'd call, and Evan somehow always picked up. Their conversations grew from short check-ins to something else, a rhythm. Sometimes she'd tell stories about her late husband, Julian, how he was annoyingly punctual, how he used to correct her grammar mid-argument, how he once serenaded her with a terrible rendition of Tiny Dancer on a ukulele he couldn't play. Sometimes Evan made her laugh mostly by accident, like when he confessed he once tried to impress a girl by learning to bake sourdough during lockdown and ended up fermenting a colony of regret in his fridge. Claire laughed for a full 20 seconds. I needed that, she said, and Evan felt like he'd passed a strange kind of test. One evening, she called without warning. Evan answered breathless mid-laundry. Hey, he said, dropping a sock. This a good time. I'm the one who called, she said, amused. Right fair. She was quiet for a second, then softer. I passed the phone shop today, the one where we bought Julian's first cell phone. I almost walked in just to have it. Do you still have it? Evan asked. His phone. She laughed, but it was sad. Oh yes, it's in a drawer, dead and cracked, but I can't throw it away. Evan sat on the edge of his bed. Do you think you started calling because you missed hearing the sound of his line, even if he wasn't there anymore? Claire paused. Maybe, she said. Maybe I just needed to feel like someone was still listening. He wanted to tell her that she wasn't alone, but he didn't say it yet. Instead, he said, "You know you called the wrong number." That made her laugh again, soft and real. One rainy Tuesday, Evan did something bold. He texted her, "You still up for chatting later, or should I pretend to be your dead husband and ghost you?" Claire replied. "Wow, that's dark. Also, yes, call me at 8. That night, she told him about a fight she once had with Julian over whether or not they should repaint the living room. He wanted eggshell white. I wanted actual color. We compromised and didn't paint at all." Evan chuckled. "Sounds romantic." It was in a weird way. Then she asked out of the blue, "Have you ever been in love, Evan?" He was quiet. "Once," he said. "I think college. We talked about getting a dog together, which is almost more serious than getting married." "What happened?" "She moved to Boston. I stayed in Chicago. We tried the long-distance thing, but it didn't stick. Maybe it wasn't meant to." Claire didn't respond right away. "You ever think about calling her?" she asked. "Sometimes," Evan admitted, "but I don't think she'd answer." "Well," Claire said, "sometimes you dial a number and someone unexpected picks up." He smiled at that. One night she didn't call, and Evan realized how much he'd come to expect her voice, how much space she took up in his days now. He didn't want to admit it, but her absence left a hum in the silence, so he texted, "No voicemail today. I'm starting to worry you've moved on to someone else's number." No response. He waited 3 hours. Nothing. Then finally a message. "Sorry, rough day. I'll call tomorrow." He wanted to say more. "I'm here if you want to talk," but held back. The next day she called. Her voice was tired. "I packed away his jacket today," she said. "It smelled like him still. 2 years and it still smells like him." Evan sat in silence. "I didn't cry," she said, and it sounded like a confession. "I thought I would, but I didn't. I just zipped the bag, put it on the shelf, and that was it." He let the silence hang, not rushing to fill it. "You don't have to cry every time to mean you love them," Evan finally said. "Is that a fact?" she asked. "It is now," he replied. Later that week, Claire asked a question he didn't expect. "What do you look like?" Evan blinked. Average generic man number 3. Brown hair, scruffy, probably needs a haircut." "You classy widow chic," she said dryly. "I wear a lot of cardigans now. It's practically a rule." They laughed. "Do you want to meet?" Evan asked, surprised, even as he said it. Claire was quiet then. "I don't know. I'm not sure I'm there yet." "That's okay," he said. "But I do want to keep talking." He smiled. "Me too." It had started as a mistake, but by now Evan wasn't sure it was a mistake at all. Claire had become part of his life, her stories, her silences, her sarcasm, her grief. He found himself thinking of her voice during long walks, wondering what her late husband had been like, wondering what she was like when she wasn't wrapped in loss, and though he didn't say it yet, not even to himself, a small part of him hoped the next chapter wasn't about Julian, it was about Claire and maybe about Evan too. The following week, Claire called while Evan was at the grocery store. He answered between the frozen peas and waffle section, earbuds and cart half full. "Is this a bad time?" she asked. "That depends," he said, pushing the cart. "Do you judge people for buying discount toaster waffles?" A soft laugh. "Never." He grinned. "Then no, it's not a bad time." "I needed to talk to someone." "You're someone." It wasn't the most poetic declaration, but it made Evan's chest feel warm anyway. She hesitated, then said, "I found something today, a voicemail from Julian." Evan stopped mid-aisle. "Oh, I didn't even remember it existed. It was from years ago, something stupid. He was asking if I wanted sushi or Thai. Which did you pick?" "I picked sushi," he forgot, and came home with Thai. We argued over it, and then we ate both." She laughed quietly. "Then I didn't delete it, the voicemail. I couldn't." "You don't have to." There was silence, then Claire said, almost guilty, "I thought about replacing the message my outgoing voicemail, but I haven't changed it in years. It still says Claire and Julian." Evan softened. "I think you can keep it if you want, or change it if you want. That's kind of the beauty of voicemail. It holds things without judgment. Claire was quiet for a long moment. You ever think about what you leave behind in little things like voicemails, receipts, grocery lists? All the time, Evan said. I once found an old note I wrote myself in a lunch bag. Said, don't forget to be kind today. I don't even remember writing it. Were you kind that day? Probably not, he said, but past me had high hopes. Claire chuckled. Julian used to leave notes in my books. He'd underline things and write, this is you. Sounds like he was a romantic. He was annoying, she corrected, but he was mine. There was a pause. I'm glad you answer when I call, she said quietly. I'm glad you keep calling. That weekend, Claire didn't call again. Evan didn't text this time. He waited, and then on Sunday afternoon she called. Her voice was strained. I tried going on a date. Evan's heart did something strange. Oh, he said. It was awful, she added quickly. He ordered for me, talked about himself the entire time, and said grief made women mysterious. I left before dessert. Evan tried not to sound relieved. Well, he sounds like a treasure. I came home and cried, she said bluntly. He didn't interrupt. I felt like I betrayed Julian, like I was trying on someone else's coat and it didn't fit. Maybe it was just the wrong coat, Evan said. Claire gave a small laugh. You're very metaphorical today. Too many waffles. I'm drunk on carbs. That made her laugh harder. Honestly, she said after a moment, I think I just wanted to feel something. Instead, I felt nothing, not even guilty, just numb. Maybe numb means you're healing, he offered, like your brain's putting bubble wrap around the sharp stuff. You're full of weird wisdom. I try. A few days later, Claire did something unexpected. She texted him, what's your favorite sound? Evan blinked at the message, then replied, easy. That sound when you walk into a bookstore and everyone's quietly existing like rustling pages in possibility. Wow, okay, poet, he smirked. Your turn. Her reply came minutes later. The sound of someone making coffee in the kitchen while you're still in bed. Evan read it twice. That's a very specific kind of lovely. It used to be my favorite part of Sunday mornings. Evan hesitated, then typed, let's make Sunday mornings okay again. She didn't reply right away then. I'd like that. They started calling each other on purpose, not just Claire's impulsive voicemails anymore, or accidental mid-afternoon dials, but planned calls shared time. One night she said, I Googled you. Evan choked on his tea. You what? You told me your last name once, I remembered. Found your LinkedIn. You were very normal. I contain multitudes, he said, mediocre ones. You work in tech support, she said amused. That explains the patience. I'm the guy who tells grandmas how to reset their routers. I'm basically a hero. You are, she said. He didn't laugh at that. He just smiled stupidly alone in his apartment. Then came the phone call that changed something. I saw a therapist today, Claire said, her voice quiet. Oh, it was hard. I cried and I didn't want to, but I talked about you. Evan's heart beat faster. What did you say? I told her about the man who answers the wrong number, how you never ask for anything but always give space, how sometimes I forget your face but remember your voice like it's music. He didn't know what to say to that, so he said the truth. I think about your voice all the time. Claire exhaled. Is that strange? No, Evan said. It's the most honest thing I've ever heard. It was getting harder to pretend they were just strangers bound by a phone line in grief. Something was happening slowly, quietly, but it was real. Evan didn't know what to call it yet, but he knew he didn't want it to stop. Evan couldn't stop thinking about what Claire had said. I forget your face, but remember your voice like it's music. He'd replayed the sentence while brushing his teeth, while microwaving leftovers, while standing in the elevator at work surrounded by people who had no idea someone out there was calling him her music. It was getting harder to treat this as some tender accident. They were talking every day now, late-night conversations about nothing and everything. Her favorite kind of pen, his irrational fear of squirrels, her dreams of opening a bookstore cafe. She never told anyone about his tendency to cry during commercials, especially ones with dogs and soldiers. Then on a Thursday evening, she asked, have you ever lost someone? Evan paused. Yes, my mom, when I was 19, cancer. There was a long, aching silence on her end. I'm sorry, she said. Me too. I think part of me thought you were just kind, but now I think you just know. Know what? What the dark feels like when it doesn't leave. That night, she called again. I'm downstairs, she said. Evan sat up straight in bed. What? I'm in my car. I drove past your building, Claire. I'm not coming in. I just wanted to see where your voice lives. He got out of bed, walked to his window, and saw her car, a silver sedan, idling across the street. She was staring up. He waved. A light flicked inside the car. She raised her hand, tentative, a shadow in the shape of hope. I'm not ready, she said, voice trembling through the speaker. You don't have to be. I don't know what this is. I don't either, but I feel better when I talk to you. He swallowed. Me too. Can I just sit here for a while? You can sit there as long as you need. And so they stayed like that, separated by glass and grief and the weight of unspoken possibilities. She left an hour later, headlights disappearing into the city's hush. 2 days later, she sent him a picture, a cup of coffee on a windowsill rain. I made coffee this morning and pretended someone was making it for me. Evan sent back, someday someone will. A pause then, would you, he stared at the message, his heartbeat somewhere in his throat. Then he typed, if you ever want me to. Claire called that night and neither of them danced around it anymore. I think I'm scared, she admitted, of liking you, of you liking me back, because if I lose you too, you're not going to lose me. You don't know that. I know what I choose. I'm choosing this. You. You haven't even kissed me, she whispered. I've kissed you 100 times in my head. She laughed, cracked and warm. Me too. A pause. I don't know how to start again, she said. Then we don't start, he said. We just keep going. It was around midnight when Evan stood in his kitchen, the phone still pressed to his ear, and asked, Claire, can I ask you something? Anything. What do you think Julian would say about us? The question floated like incense, painful but necessary. She didn't answer right away, then softly, he'd say, I'm glad you're not alone anymore. Evan closed his eyes. A tear slipped down uninvited. Can I tell you something else, she asked. Always. I saved every voicemail you left me. You mean the ones where I say dumb things like, you dropped your dignity at Trader Joe's? Those are my favorite, and he silenced, then suddenly brave. Evan, I think I'm falling for your voice. He smiled like the sun came up inside him. Claire, he said, I think my voice belongs to you now. Evan knew something was different when Claire didn't call for 2 days straight. Not a voicemail, not a text, nothing. It wasn't the first time she'd pulled away, but this silence felt heavier, louder like a storm forming just past the horizon of their strange, beautiful connection. He finally broke, sending a message. You okay? No reply, not the first hour, not the first night, but on the third day, just past 300 a.m., his phone lit up. Can I call you? He was already wide awake, already waiting. He didn't even type a reply. He just answered. Hey, he said. She didn't speak right away, then came her voice, hushed and raw. I found Julian's sweater today in the back of the hall closet. I thought I donated everything, but it still smells like him. Evan sat up in bed, heart steady. Did you put it on? I did, she said. I wore it for hours. I cried into it like he was there. A breath then, and I hated myself because for a moment I wanted you there instead. The silence that followed was thick with too many emotions to name, but Evan didn't run from it. He whispered, I think that means you're healing. No, Claire said. It means I'm selfish. I want him back, and I want you too. I want things that don't make sense. He let the quiet settle before replying, grief and love aren't opposites, Claire. Sometimes they hold hands. A choked laugh. You say things like that, and I start thinking there's still magic in the world. There is, Evan said. It sounds like your voice at 3:00 a.m. The next morning she texted, I think I'd like to see you in person. For real. Evan stared at the message like it might evaporate. Are you sure? He typed back. No, but I want to be. That's something, right? That's everything. They met at a park bench just after sunset, the kind of dusky hour where the sky forgets its colors. Claire was there first. She stood as he approached, arms wrapped around herself, even though the night was warm. She looked different, taller, smaller somehow, but not weaker, just more human. "Hi," she said. "Hi," he breathed. They stood awkwardly for a beat, then she stepped forward. I hugged him like she'd done it 100 times. He felt it then, the gravity of her, the softness wrapped in steel, the pain pressed into gentleness, the echo of Julian still living inside her. "I didn't know what to wear," she murmured. "You wore your voice. That's enough." She pulled back to look at him. "You're taller than I thought. You're more beautiful than I imagined." That earned a half smile. "Careful, I might believe you." "I hope you do." They walked for an hour, talking about nothing. The birds overhead, a kid trying to fly a kite with too little wind, the smell of someone grilling nearby. Eventually, they sat on a bench near the water. Streetlights flickered on like stars giving up early. Claire leaned her head against his shoulder. "I thought it would feel like cheating," she whispered. "And does it?" "No," she said. "It feels like remembering what warmth is." Evan didn't move. He didn't speak. He just sat with her, as still and present as a heartbeat. Before they parted that night, she said, "I still talk to him, sometimes out loud in the kitchen in my car." "I talk to my mom, Boam," Evan replied. "Usually when I burn something she used to cook perfectly." Claire smiled. "Do you think they'd be happy for us?" He thought about it. "I think they'd be grateful we found each other." She touched his cheek, brief, gentle, brave. Then she whispered something she hadn't dared say before. "I'm starting to feel alive again, and it's terrifying." He smiled, leaning into her palm. "Then we're in the same boat. Let's be terrified together." The day it all began, Evan never expected to answer a call from a ghost. Now, months later, he sat beside Claire in her kitchen as sunlight spilled across the tiled floor. A cup of coffee steamed in her hands. His elbows rested on the table, and between them sat her phone unlocked and open to a folder labeled Julian's voicemails. "Are you sure?" Evan asked gently. Claire nodded. "I think I need to hear them one more time with you." She pressed play. Julian's voice crackled through the speaker, warm, tired teasing. "Claire, babe, I'm stuck in traffic again. I swear these drivers want me to lose my mind. Save me a piece of that lemon tart, yeah? Love you." Claire didn't cry. She smiled. Another message. "I forgot to tell you I folded the laundry but accidentally shrank your favorite sweater. Please don't kill me. Also, I left you flowers. You'll see them. Try to stay mad, I dare you." She laughed, and Evan leaned closer, his arm brushing hers. Then came the last message. Julian's our voice was softer this time. "Hey, if you're listening to this, I probably forgot to call you back. Or maybe I just wanted to hear your voice first. Either way, I love you, and I always will. You're my whole world, Claire." The room felt still after it ended. Claire sat in silence, her thumb hovering over the screen. Then she slowly deleted the folder. "Claire, it's okay," she whispered. "I'm not deleting him, just letting go of needing to hear it again." She looked at Evan, eyes misted but sure. "Now I want to hear you." He took her hand. "I'm here." Later that evening, Evan took Claire to the rooftop of his building. He'd strung up tiny string lights between the railing and the pipes and laid out 2 old camping chairs in a fleece blanket. "Impressive setup," Claire said. I Googled bare minimum romance. This came up." She laughed, and the sound was freer than it had been in months. They sipped cheap wine, watched the stars flicker through city haze, and listened to the soft hum of distant traffic. The world went quiet around them like it knew they needed space to breathe. "Tell me something you've never told anyone," Claire said. Evan looked at her. "I used to call my own number just to hear my voicemail greeting, just to hear someone say something back." She blinked. "That's heartbreakingly sweet." "Your turn," Claire thought then. "When you first picked up that night, I almost hung up because your voice wasn't Julian's, and I hated myself for being disappointed, but you stayed." "I stayed." They were quiet again, then Evan said, "I saved something too." He reached into his coat and pulled out a piece of paper. It was folded and worn from being handled too many times. He passed it to her. Claire unfolded it. It was a transcript. Claire, I'm starting to feel alive again, and it's terrifying. Evan, then, we're in the same boat. Let's be terrified together. You wrote it down. I didn't want to forget the first time you let me in. She looked up at him. You're incredible. No, Evan said softly. I just answered the phone. Weeks later, Claire recorded a new voicemail greeting. Evan happened to be beside her when she did it. Hi, this is Claire. I'm not available right now, but leave a message or, better yet, just call again. I might be braver next time. She looked at him when she finished smiling, and Evan, he left her a message that very night, just because. Hey, Claire, it's me. I'm thinking about that first time you called. I had no idea who you were, but somehow I think part of me was already waiting. I'll keep picking up always. One of the most profound lessons from Evan and Claire's story is the transformative power of human connection, even when it begins by accident. Life often throws us into moments of loss, loneliness, or uncertainty, yet it's in these fragile spaces that unexpected bonds can form, reminding us that we're never truly alone. Claire's voicemails meant for a husband who was no longer there, found Evan a stranger who chose to listen rather than turn away. His decision to stay on the line to offer space for her grief and stories teaches us that kindness and presence can heal in ways we might never predict. It's a reminder to answer the metaphorical calls in our own lives, to reach out, to listen, to show up for someone, even when it feels awkward or uncertain. These small acts of courage can spark something beautiful, turning strangers into lifelines and silences into shared hope. This story urges us to embrace vulnerability, to let others in, and to believe that even in our darkest moments, there's someone somewhere waiting to hear our voice. What did this story teach you about love, loss, or connection? Share your thoughts in the comments below. We'd love to hear your reflections. If this tale touched your heart, please like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell to join our community. Together, let's keep exploring the stories that remind us what it means to be human. Your support keeps these emotional journeys alive, so don't miss out. Subscribe now, and let's stay connected.